A man known as Vash the Stampede has earned himself a bounty of $60 billion by being a ruthless villain who lays waste to all those that oppose him, while also flattening entire cities just for the fun of it. I mean, so the rumors say at least. We start things off in the 32nd century on the planet of Gunsmoke. At a dingy saloon, we hear two bozos talking about how the nearby town of Dankin got completely destroyed by Vash the Stampede, talking up his reputation of being a cold-blooded murderer who would kill you as soon as look at you. When the bartender takes a keg outside and sees something that makes him skedaddle, the two bozos pull out their guns, getting ready for a fight, when the entire saloon is suddenly cut in half, with the top flying off, and a gang of men outside then open fire onto the remainder of the bar, shooting it to pieces. After they're done, all that's left is a man, finishing his drink, who is protected from the gunfire by the metal saloon sign. The boomerang that cut the bar in half then flies back into the hand of its owner, a giant man who states that he's finally found him. The two parties then stare each other down, before the solo man pulls out his revolver, aiming it at the men. We then cut to the previously mentioned town of Dankin, where a bounty hunter is trying to gather information on this Vash the Stampede who destroyed the town, and the description he gets indicates that the one he is looking for is a giant man with earrings and short legs, wearing red. Elsewhere, two girls, Meryl Streep and Millie Thompson, walk into a dingy bar, where after they order a banana sundae and a spot of tea, the men inside the bar get real slimy. That is until they realize that Millie keeps that thing on her, causing them to immediately back off. They then also gather information relating to Vash the Stampede, where the description they get differs in details with the description that the bounty hunter from earlier got too. Meanwhile, we see that the giant dude and his cronies managed to let the guy they were hunting down escape, and as this old timer is walking around trying to find him, a hand suddenly reaches out of the sand and grabs his leg. The old timer starts to call out to his boys that it's Vash, but is knocked out with a swift judo chop before he can finish. Vash then begins to pilfer through his pockets, grabbing some much needed ammo, and we cut to just before, after he lowered his gun towards the gang. Instead of it being the cool showdown like you would expect, his gun actually had no bullets, leaving him to masterfully escape. Back to the present. As more people show up, and after chatting with the boss for a bit, he ends up captured. Just as they're discussing how they're going to take him to the popo and be filthy rich, the two girls from earlier arrive nearby. They then walk up to the massive dude and nervously introduce themselves to him, as they believe him to be Vash the Stampede. As they begin to explain themselves, a shot rings out through the area, and the bounty hunter we saw earlier, named Loose Ruth, also seems to think that the big guy is Vash the Stampede, and is hungry for a bite of that bounty. They get to talking, and it quickly becomes apparent that everyone is thinking everyone else is Vash. The big guy and the bounty hunter then get to fighting, while the two girls and the actual Vash make a getaway. As they're running away, the girls, while Vash mungs down on some donuts, explain that they work for the Bernardilli Insurance Society, and are investigating the rumors surrounding Vash, as there have been over 300 separate incidents involving him, and if this keeps up, it will affect the company's finances. The girls then offer Vash $10 to go and warn the town about the fighting going on, before they ride back to complete their job of locating Vash. However, once they get back there, the fighting has stopped, as they both realize that they were mistaken in thinking that each other was Vash, and because the big guy thinks that they're in cahoots with the real Vash and helped him escape, they tie them up to question them. Yeah, question them, nothing else. Just then, Vash rides back in where he manages to save the girls and runs away to the edge of a cliff. Thinking they've got him cornered, the big guy throws his boomerang at Vash, when he bounces off it as it flies past, sending him high into the sky, landing on the gang leader and disarming him by making the mechanical systems he wears malfunction. As boomerangs usually do, it then flies back in, but towards the bounty hunter, taking him out. A grenade the bounty hunter had armed then goes off, causing a landslide to fall on the nearby town, which luckily also suffers no casualties. A time later, after arriving in a town whose water supply had dried up, Meryl and Millie then unexpectedly find Vash working for Cliff Caesar, a wealthy water seller. Cliff has hired Vash to protect a young woman named Mary Ann, who has been staying at his mansion, as he is worried about a blonde man with a silver weapon who has been trespassing on his property. Vash, Meryl, and Millie discover that the intruder turns out to be Mary Ann, who is actually a marshal, investigating Cliff's business and his monopolization of the water supply in the region. Vash foils Cliff's attempts to kill him and Mary Ann, but Cliff's processing equipment does overload, destroying his mansion and flooding the town. Afterwards, Mary Ann places him under arrest. Sometime later, in the city of Inepril, Vash finds out that the entire population is trying to capture him for the $60 billion reward, so they can pay for the much-needed repairs to their malfunctioning plant. The citizens cause extensive damage in their pursuit, and as a last-ditch effort, the leader hires the infamous father and son team, Professor and Goffsef Nebraska. Vash puts himself in great peril to keep the pair from harming any civilians and ultimately stops Govsef's huge mechanical fist by shooting it. The Nebraskas are then captured for a previous prison escape, and Meryl finally admits to her dismay that the strange man she and Millie have been following really is Vash the Stampede. Vash then allows the citizens of Anepril to claim a $700,000 reward for capturing the Nebraskas, enough money to cover the repairs of the city's plant. As an engineering team arrives on a sand steamer, Vash becomes enamored with Elizabeth, its beautiful leader, but sometimes simping's dangerous and he suffers multiple sudden attacks in his life. Elizabeth locks him in a room with overloading equipment, intending to kill him, and accusing him of destroying the third city of July and leaving her an orphan when she was only 3 years old. Vash brings the plant under control, telling her that he has no memory of that day, and she breaks down crying as she remembers him comforting her. Vash then departs on the sand steamer with the gratitude of Anepril, all the while being unaware of the fact that Meryl and Millie have taken jobs on board in order to keep an eye on him. He then befriends a young stowaway named Katie, who is secretly helping the ruthless Bad Lad gang hijack the steamer. Their leader, Brilliant Dynamite's Neon, intends to smash open the safe which contains the passengers' valuables by crashing the steamer into the bottom of a canyon. Katie, however, refuses to help with this plan, claiming that the craft belongs to his father, and Vash saves him from being killed by Neon and pulls him outside. He then says that his father designed the steamer as a way to help others. As they continue to evade the Bad Lads, Katie sees the lengths at which Vash will go to in order to avoid harming anyone. The gang then captures Katie and draws Vash into an ambush. Neon prepares to kill him, but eventually relents upon finding a disguised Meryl and Millie holding him at gunpoint. Neon duels with Vash and ultimately concedes, agreeing to stop the steamer, but the braking system no longer works. To then atone for his part in the hijacking, Katie rushes into the engine room and trips an emergency stop switch. He is severely burnt, but the steamer stops just short of the canyon's edge. While traveling to May City by bus from the site of the steamer crash, Vash encounters a traveling priest named Nicholas D. Wolfwood, who is trying to raise money for an orphanage he runs. The bus then comes under attack by a squadron of armed robots, remnants of a lost age of technology, and the two men leap into action to save a girl being threatened by them. Vash and Wolfwood are then sucked down through a patch of quicksand and fall into a buried alien ship that is controlling the robots. Working together, they fight their way past its defenses and shut down the main computer to save the passengers from further attack. The bus then reaches May safely the next morning. In May City, Vash finds Wolfwood working at a restaurant in order to help a woman whose husband has abandoned her and the couple's son are left in deep debt. Wolfwood persuades Vash to sign up for a quick draw tournament with a $50,000 grand prize as a way to help her out. Vash, however, shocks Wolfwood by signing him up as well. The two then devise a scheme to fake their deaths in the final round, wounding but not killing all of the opponents who are trying to capture Vash for the reward on him, and Wolfwood coerces the tournament organizer into giving him the prize money. The restaurant owner is happy to have her debts paid off and is surprised when her husband returns safely home. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by hitting that like button. If we can get to 1,000 likes, I'll know you want to see it continued and I'll make a part 2.